Good afternoon. Two hands here. Both hands I c-bet flop and turn and face a turn raise. And both hands I'm in the cutoff. So we have hand number one. This is a 2NL game. And I'll say 2NL tends to have some weird stuff, some just bad players. Not logical in some of their play. So it's folded around to me. I open raise, the three big blinds, and the button calls. I've got 37 hands on him. He's playing 31%. If we look at pre-flop call, he's been like 50%. His stats are just, in general, are pretty loose. He's playing 38% VPIP from under the gun. He is raising, quite a bit. So I think he would probably 3-bet a bit. So his cold calling range is probably, I don't know, maybe at least 16%, probably closer to 22%, 26%. We'll just pick those as his range. When you factor in 14% raise, when you factor in his raise frequencies, it's probably better. So I think that's might be a little too tight, but we'll go with it. And the big blind calls. So the big blind, I only have 17 hands. He's played 24% VPIP. I think this is going to be more of a solid type of range. Maybe not even these suited connectors, but definitely pocket pairs. He just called. So I've got ace jack. Against the big blind, I'm going to be ahead. He's got more pocket pairs than this guy. I mean, even though they've got about the same, relatively speaking, he has a lot of unpaired hands in his range. So, the button's the better hand to be up against. So it's ace jack, and you'll see I'm 60% versus 53%. Flop comes 8 high, 8-6-5. This is a pretty dry flop, but when you look at it, this does hit the calling range a bit better than the pre-flop raisers range. Now, I think it's different. If I was in early position, definitely this hits the calling range much harder than the pre-flop raiser range. But here, I'm cut off at raise first in. I do think I have, these pocket pairs, 5, 6s, 8s. I probably have, 8, 9, 7, 8. I've got the draws. I've got over pairs in my range. Now, these guys, I don't think they really have a whole lot of over pairs. Maybe 10s, jacks, 9s. But I don't think they have aces, kings, or queens. I don't. So, villain 15 checks, and I assume he would do that with his entire range. And I fired a half pot bet, and the only one that calls is the button. So we'll take him out, and he calls. So the question is, what is he going to call with? I know that he folds in position 0%, folds the c-bet 0%, but that's only 0 out of 1. Out of position, he's folded 1 out of 3. He seems like he's going to be more likely to call, especially if he has a hand that has some equity. So I'm going to include flush draw, open-ended straight draw, gut shots. It's possible that he could have some of these combos too. I'm going to give him all these weak pairs. I don't think ace high hands. There's really no reason. I think his ace high hands are going to be part of this flush draw or this gut shot or this open-ended straight draw. So against that range, when he calls, we're at 34%. We're behind. We're going to need to pick up some equity here. Now, question, should I have bet here? I think he showed weakness. We know she showed weakness. I think this guy shows weakness by calling, and if we think about what hands are going to call, I think a lot of hands could call unless we, all of the overcards, are going to call. And when you look at his continuance range, it's 54%. He's folding 45% of hands. I do think this is a good one to c-bet on. What do we do on the turn? I think we c-bet aces, kings, queens, jacks. I think a 10, 9, 7, 4 is going to be kind of bad for us. I think 2 is somewhat neutral. Yeah, 3, 4 gets there, but I don't think 3, 4 is too likely. Yeah, I've got him here in the range. I mean, we're gonna look at 3 combinations. I think 5 and 6 may be a little bit neutral too. But I mean, yeah, they could have a pair of 5s, they could have a pair of 6s right now. But again, it's going to be a small number. So I hit ace of diamonds. I think that's pretty good. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't. We've picked up equity. I think he could have straight draw, gut shots calling. He could have had a club draw, and I have the jack of clubs, so I know ace jack of clubs isn't out there. He could have ace king, ace queen. I'd expect him to raise with ace king, probably raise with ace queen as well. So I think this is good card. I do think we should continue. Because the flush draw is going to call, and you can see the flush draw is going to be calling 25%. I think open-ended straight draw is going to call. So just right there, you can see, if I didn't have anything else, he's calling 37.3% of the time, and we're at 67%. Now, what else is he going to have? I think he calls a straight, a set, 2 pair, top pair, pocket pair below top pair, maybe. So 9s and 10s might call, might fold. I think middle pair is just going to give up. Weak pair is just going to give up, unless it's part of this straight. And even this pocket pair below top pair might give up. If I bet here, so I mean, at least 59% is continuing. He's folding 41%. With a value hand, I think that's okay. What cards are gonna fold? Basically the hands that I beat, but I don't think, I'm looking at all of these other draws that would call, and I'm trying to get value from them. If I bet and he raises, I'm going to expect that he's doing it with sets, 2 pair plus, 2 pair set and straight. So let's see what happens. So I bet 9, which is half, and then he min raises, and that's a curious bet. It almost seems like he's betting because he has the straight, the made straight. And not even just with the made straight, but maybe the made straight with a flush draw. So if he has 9-7 of diamonds, 9-7 of clubs. Min raise, I got the straight. Maybe he's looking for something else. Could have a set, could have 2 pair. So, once I got raised, I think even with that size, I think we should probably just look to give up. Should we fold? I know we only need 17% equity. I think if it's only 2 pair plus, we have 6%. We're not getting the the correct odds. If we restrict it to flush draws, or if we say he'll do this with all of his flush draws, we're looking at 41% equity. We could easily call and check him and see what he does. If he does it with top pair, because he doesn't believe we have an ace, yeah, our equity hand goes up. So how many players would actually raise this? I think that min bet means that he has a strong hand, and I don't even know if that includes 2 pair. So I think we kind of probably just fold here and be done with it. I called King of Diamonds hits. Pot's 54. I check, and now all of a sudden he bets 39. So remember, I bet 9. He min raised to 18, and now he comes out and fires, 2/3 pot bet. He's demonstrated strength. If he was on a flush draw, he hit the diamond. I do think we should just be done. Our 1 pair isn't good enough. Our 1 pair won't take this hand down. I called. That's why we can go through it, and I show ace jack and he shows 8. He shows trip 8s. So 8s are definitely in his range. I think that min bet, I guess, could represent, being scared. So what we can do is just kind of add some notes. So min raise on turn with trips when board had straight draw. Let's see here. On ace of diamonds, ace of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, 8 of club, 5 of club. And just make a note that all right, so let me pause, close things out, and get. All right, so hand number 2 is ace king of diamonds. Under the gun limps. What's his limping range? He's going to be somewhat wide. He's playing 33-8. So from under the gun, he's playing 22-3. So his limping range, or his raising range, is pretty darn tight. I think raising range is queens plus. We need about 22%. We're going to give him all the suited aces. Jack 10. Yeah, probably. Maybe something like that. That's his open raising range. This is the limping range. Ace King's going to be ahead of that one, right at the top. So we're at 63%. I raised. I think that's appropriate. Raising helps to get these players out. And, when we think about his cold calling range is 32. So I think when we raise, we're building up the pot, and we know that he's probably going to be calling, a sizable chunk of this range. So he might not call with Jack 10, might not call with these offsuits, probably doesn't call with King 9 or Queen 9 and Jack 9. So I think when he calls, we're a little bit tighter on our range. Does he call? Yep, he calls. So we're right at 62.3. Flop gives us 2 pair with the spade draw. All right, so now when we look at his range and how that connects, you can see that a weak pair represents more than half. He checks, he donks flops 10%, so 2 out of 20. And I don't know if this is necessarily a board where he could donk, but if he would, I'd expect it would be one of these ace with smaller kickers, hoping to take it down maybe to see if I have the king. He does have, about 33.8% is top pair or better. 14% is 2 pair plus, and so forth. So he checks, and now I bet 2/3. How is this play? I think this is okay because we can look at what hands he's going to call with. I think he's going to call with top pair plus. I think he calls with a flush draw, and he probably calls once with the gut shot. So with that range, continuance range, we're at 77.5. He's calling a lot. Well, and not. He's calling with a wide range of hands that we beat. So betting 2/3. And also when you see, I think maybe I should have bet smaller. His fold to C bets are at above 70%. So I think with this, if we go a little bit smaller, maybe we can get some of the smaller pairs to call instead of going this large. But you can see once he calls, he doesn't really fold so much on the turn. So he's probably calling with hands. He's not calling with, I think, middle pair, the weak pair. He's got a draw. He's got top pair plus. And I should say, we beat top pair. We've got 2 pair. So he calls, and the turn is the queen of diamonds. And that's kind of interesting because now it kind of sets up a king-queen or Queen Jack now has 2 pair, and they'd probably call. So you can see 2 pairs now 42.9%, and we have the 2 pair. We have that. We have him beat with that. He could have a set. Could have a straight. So 26% chance that he has a straight, 4% chance that he has a set. Should we bet? Should we call? If we bet, do we think we're going to get top pair to call again? Do we think flush draw is going to call again? I think if we bet 2/3 pot, he's not. I think I think he's tighter. I think he's only going to be calling 2 pair plus. And if he calls 2 pair plus, we're at 57%. We're still ahead. So I kind of think that we do have an opportunity to pick up some value. But we have to think about, if we bet, what do we do if then he leads the river? And how likely is it that he does that? So, if we bet, if we check, he has probed 100%. 1 out of 1. When he has bet 47% on the river, but he has donked 0 out of 3. So I think we can bet and not expect him to raise us. If we check, what do we think is going to happen? If we check, he may then consider calling with an ace. But is that worth it for the small chance that he would actually call? I don't think so. I think we should bet here half to about half pot bet, maybe 2/3 pot bet, and to get these two pairs to call. He checks. I bet about 2/3, and then all of a sudden he raises. What does he raise with? I think a player like this is probably only raising the straight. Maybe he has a flush draw. I mean, Queen Jack, Queen 10. But why not? I mean, I bet 2/3. Why not just call and see if it hits? I think that's awfully aggressive for somebody who seems to be pretty passive. So for him to raise like this, I kind of think he's got the straight. I think his set isn't completely eliminated, but I think it's a lot less likely because he only has jacks. So I think right here it's a straight. I think I have to fold my 2 pair. It sucks, but we need 25% equity to call. And if he's only doing that, we've got 11.7. We're basically drawing 2. The last 2 aces, last 2 kings. We've got 4 outs. He demonstrated he likes it. Passive player. I think we should just fold. I didn't. I called, and then 3 spades hits. And here's interesting. So pot's 101.1. I have 53.2. He has 62.5, and he bets 42.5. Less than half pot. I think this is entirely just I want to get called, but I'm kind of scared of the flush. Maybe he has a flush. It's basically hands that already have the straight. So yeah, here 100% chance we're beat. We should continue folding. And I didn't, and he shows Jack 10. So he did have the straight. He did have the flush. I think he demonstrated it, that we were beat. Now I think what's different, if we look at the first hand, I'm not going to be entirely convinced that he had the straight, because that player was aggressive. Same thing here. I think this player might be able to make the play with the combo draw. Could make that with ace jack, or maybe queen jack of spades, where he's got 2 pair and he's now raising with the spade draw. But a passive player like this, where he's playing 33-8, I just think he doesn't raise enough to suggest that he's doing it with weaker hands. So hit both hands. Hope you enjoy this. Look tomorrow for a few more hands.